A group of gun rights advocates wants you to help pay for George Zimmerman's defense should he ever be charged in the death of Trayvon Martin. LegalBoom.org is taking donations for Zimmerman's legal defense fund. The group says it wants to protect gun owners' rights, defend Florida's Stand Your Ground law, and make sure Zimmerman has a fair chance, and adds it's gotten overwhelming support. Christopher Kosman, one of the website's founders, is in the Tampa Bay area. He joins us via Skype. Welcome, Christopher.
Hi.
Hi. You've spoken with George Zimmerman's attorney, Craig Sonner, about your fundraising effort. How did he react?
I really can't comment too much about it. I have spoken with him on 2 occasions, and we are currently working together and consolidating our efforts, and that's about as much as I can comment on it at the moment.
So just to clarify, you're working with Zimmerman's attorney?
We're in the preliminary stages right now, and we are working together.
Did he tell you anything about the need for funds for Zimmerman's defense?
No, he has not.
How much money have you raised?
I can't really comment on that at the moment, but it has been overwhelming. It's a lot more than what we had originally anticipated.
When you say overwhelming, can you give us an idea of what that means?
Again, I can't really comment on specifics, but when we originally released this, we weren't expecting what's come in thus far.
So just tell me what you expected.
Not nearly as much as we have.
Okay, we'll move on. You said your group has gotten death threats because of this. Tell us about that.
We expected it from the get-go. Unfortunately, I think that anybody that's associated with Zimmerman or Zimmerman's defense has now become a social pariah. And I think that's unfortunate because these people are crying for justice, and I really don't think that they understand what justice is. It's certainly not death threats. It's not bounties on people's heads. It's a fair trial and a fair shake, and that's what we want for Zimmerman.
Your group is focused on defending the so-called Stand Your Ground law, but people like Jeb Bush and even Sonner have said it doesn't really apply in this case. Why do you think it does?
Well, can't really speak to that. I don't know any more specifics than what the public already knows. But what I can say is that the Stand Your Ground law is there to defend people and their right to defend themselves. And so this law doesn't really need to be changed because of one isolated incident. It's a good law, and no matter where you are or who you are and what your racial ethnicity is, you have the right to defend yourself if you feel threatened.
Well, of course, we don't know exactly what happened that night. We don't know if George Zimmerman was in the act of defending himself. Does that bother you?
It doesn't really bother me, and the reason it doesn't is because we don't know. What bothers me is the public outcry, what's come out of it so far. We believe that Zimmerman hasn't gotten a fair shake. That's what bothers us. If it needs to go to trial for justice to be served, then so be it. But judging him guilty in the court of public opinion is not the way to go about this. And so far, nobody stepped up to the plate and said these things and been willing to defend Zimmerman, and that's what we're here to do.
I'm curious, how do you feel about the other side, about Trayvon Martin? Because a lot of people who support Trayvon Martin's side of the story would say some of the same things that you're saying now.
Right. Well, I'd like to say, this is a tragedy. A teenager is dead. Parents have to bury their son. And Zimmerman's life is irreversibly changed. We're gaining notoriety for donating to Mr. Zimmerman, but what we're really trying to do is raise awareness to the doubt in his guilt. It hasn't been asserted yet, and I feel when the facts come out to this case, it's going to change everybody's perception.
Is it fair, though, that some are trying to portray Trayvon Martin in what some call a bad light?
Absolutely not. I don't agree with that or condone that at all, nor does our organization. I feel what happened prior to the shooting is irrelevant. Zimmerman's background and Trayvon's background shouldn't have a part to play in it, because really all it boils down is to in those critical seconds, what happened.
And just a final question for you. And I know you got to go and answer your phone, but just a final question. Some people believe, to bring the issue of gun rights into this argument now, it just clouds the picture. It makes justice harder to find. I mean, why concentrate on gun rights when really investigators have to figure out what happened that night?
Right. I don't believe that we're necessarily concentrating on gun rights, but what I do believe is that the stand your ground law will come into question after this, whether it's proven that Zimmerman was innocent or not. And we really don't think that it should. What matters is what happened that night between Zimmerman and Martin. The law plays a part in it, and it really shouldn't be challenged just because of one isolated incident. The stand your ground law has been used for hundreds of justifiable homicides in the state of Florida, and it should be continued to be used because people, again, no matter where you are, who you are, and what your racial ethnicity is, you have the right to defend yourself if you feel threatened.
Well, others might say, and I'm just going to ask you this last question, I swear, others might say that that's totally wrong. Like, what better time to review the law, because maybe that law gave George Zimmerman the courage to follow Trayvon Martin that night? I mean, what better time to examine the law than now to find out if it really did play a part in Trayvon Martin's death?
Absolutely, and I think if there's a gaping hole in the legislature that allowed him to do that, then it probably should be looked at. But what I challenge people to do is look up the law. There is a specific part under the justifiable use of force, under the use of force by an aggressor, that would allow somebody, even if they provoked the fight, to use deadly force against somebody, provided they used every reasonable means to escape the danger and were still being assaulted and were in fear of imminent death or great bodily harm.
Christopher Kosman, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.